I thought it'd be interesting to share kind of some of my workflow I have with working with Sweet Home 3D and doing floor plans for Home Assistant. So here is a couple of tricks I'm using when using Sweet Home 3D when it comes to have the lighting that kind of makes sense for the different situations. So, for example, if you look here over the on the right, you see that I have a fair amount of lights here. It might seem that it doesn't make any sense, but here is what it looks like in the rendering. We'll do a quick rendering here, create a photo, and then get it over here. So wait a little bit till it appears. And you see that here I actually left a light open, a light switched on. But if you look on the right here, you kind of see that there's a dim, but overall average lighting that's kind of low without, harsh shadows and stuff like that. And the way to achieve this with Sweet Home 3D is to have a bunch of fairly big lights. You see that the diameter here of the bowl that represents the light is fairly big, and have multiple of those on the scene. And I think the strength of the light in that situation is like really low, 4%. And that gives you, with the hour set to midnight, it gives you a really dim light. And that's what I wanted to achieve when it came to having that displayed on the floor plan on the tablet. So I can show you how it looks like if I turn the piano light here off. Let me change this and then set this to 0 and do a quick render again. And I'll just do a quick one. And here's what it is. So that's going to be the default background for the floor plan in Home Assistant, and when no light is actually turned on. All right. So the idea is to export every single picture for every single light. So I turn only one light, export the image, turn it off, turn another light, and do this over and over again. So I did this for a bunch of light, and I imported that in Affinity Photo. That's what I'm using to generate the images. And what I thought was interesting is, well, first of all, you kind of have to manage transparency with layers, and I won't go into the details for this. I'm sure you can find many videos that explain, masking with layers. And I have my off image exported here as the base of the image. And then I stack up the different lighting situations. For example, I have that staircase that kind of, adds some shadows here. And what happens is that when in other situations, I don't want to see those shadows, for example, when the dining room is turned on. So I'm going to do that now and turn it on. Now the layer is on top of this, so I keep some regions of the image here, of the background image, the one for the staircase. When I turn it off, it actually goes off. So it's very interesting how you can play with transparency for the different layers to manage those situations. Now, some situations can be really tricky and might require that you actually duplicate the layer and have a different mask. And that's actually what's happening with that piano light. All right, so look at, for example, that piano light. I'm going to turn it on by turning on this layer and this layer. And what's happening is that if I turn on the living room lights here, it does go over the overall shadows cast by the piano light, but still leave that part open, because that part is just the region around that light. But if I turn the living room here off, I still have that layer that's on top. And the way you're going to have to manage this with Home Assistant is you're going to make sure that both images are turned on the condition of that entity, the entity that represents that piano light. And you're going to stack those exactly like this in the same order into the picture element in Home Assistant Lovelace dashboard. I hope that makes sense, because if I only had that layer for the piano, for example, it looks okay. I mean, it's not too bad. And when I turn that light for the living room, it actually looks okay. But I wanted to have that shadow and that, kind of gloomy light when only that light is turned on, so it makes a little bit more sense in the situation. So here you have it. I thought you find this interesting. Just leave comments and whatnot if you want to have more information.